Well, hello friends and welcome to Sinnoh. Today I want to attempt a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Platinum using only the ground type. Now the ground type wasn't a staple on anybody's team early on. They didn't have a great move pool, they lacked type diversity, type coverage. I think they were vastly overlooked, and in Generation 4, things started to change and Pokemon started to modernize, making things like ground types more viable on a team. The physical special split was a huge thing introduced here in Generation 4, but things like the elemental punches and elemental fangs becoming more readily available, giving us a deeper move pool and more type diversity, really brings the ground types into a viable spot on anybody's team. So today we're going to prove that ground types are worth being on the team as you take on any Pokemon game. As we run into our rival's house and talk to his mom, she asks if we're looking for Algo and says he's gone for a second, then comes running back in and he can't sit still. I wonder who he takes after. He doesn't take after anybody. You know why he's like this. I know why he's like this. It's the Tylenol. I mean, you only took it when you had hangovers, which makes sense, but still, we can't blame him for your indiscretions whilst you were pregnant. Now, can we? We also shouldn't blame the parents for every little problem we have as we're growing up, but I digress. This is one of those rare instances where our starter actually gains the typing we're trying to run, but unfortunately the Turtwig line doesn't gain it until it fully evolves into a Torterra at level 32. So we're going to have to box it eventually. Now, just like in every other run before this one, we of course nickname our rival Algorithm, because we are trying to beat the algorithm both in-game and in real life. Say it with me, people. The in-game algorithm is actually going to be easier as the game progresses and we start getting more type diversity and more moves. The real-life algorithm, however, does not get easier as the days progress. It just gets more difficult. It's a team effort and I need your help. You guys can help me very easily by liking the video, commenting, subscribing to the channel, hitting the notification bell, and of course, sharing this video. Any and all interactions do help out the YouTube algorithm 10 tons. As a matter of fact, if you want to leave a negative comment like, hey, your voice sounds weird or your hair is weird, even though you've never seen my hair, or maybe you're watching me right now, I don't know. Negative comments are also good for the YouTube algorithm. It's just about engagement. But I haven't given you guys a ring, you haven't given me a ring yet, so it's not a real commitment. Nonetheless, if you want to further help the channel, you can become a channel member. Of course, it's not mandatory, but it helps out a ton. You do get a couple of perks. Being a channel member, you get early access to these videos. They drop Friday for channel members and Sunday for the general public. If you want to become a Journeyman tier channel member, you can nickname a Pokemon of your choosing permanently. Those are the perks. Like I said, not mandatory, but greatly appreciated for those of you that do that. Thank you guys. Last month was an amazing month. We reached some personal goals and some personal bests, so I have to thank you guys again like I do every week. I do mean it from the bottom of my heart. Without you guys, this would suck. You guys make this absolutely amazing. Now, Algo wants to head to Lake Verity to catch one of the Lake Trio, and, well, we don't have Pokeballs. In his Tylenol psychosis, he thinks he's just going to become a Pokemon champion, and the best there is, the best there was, and the best there'll ever be, but let me tell you something, Bret Hart, you just got your Pokemon. We need to go get, some Pokeballs. He figured it out. You know, we just got to wait a second. He'll figure it out. Now, Dodge the Turtwig is our official starter, has a bold plus defense and minus attack nature. Like I said, it doesn't have the ground typing, so once we can get our hands on some ground types, we're going to have to box it. You know, I used to sit here and complain about the early game of games like Pokemon Platinum, where we have to go around and talk to these clowns because we're a clown ourselves, and we're trying to get some clown watch. After failing an attempt and redoing the early game of Ultra Moon in the last run we did, I'm never going to complain about the early game of any of these Pokemon games because none of them compare to the grind that is Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Now, to be fair, I haven't done very many runs in Gen 8 or Gen 9, but we will get there. As it is right now, I'm not going to complain about running around talking to a couple of clowns. We meet this guy in Orberg that says, is that guy in front of the gym your friend? He's sort of twitchy and impatient. That perfectly describes him. Maybe it's not the Tylenol, maybe it's something else. Maybe it's smokable energy crystals if you're catching my drift. Boy, do you have a problem? Do we need to have an intervention? I think we need to have an intervention with Algo here. In the Orberg Gate, we catch a Geodude named Darnell. It has a gentle plus special defense and minus defense nature. This is a great Pokemon. Geodude has proven itself time and time again in both ground types and rock type runs, so I'm happy to have it on the team. In the Orberg Mine, we can get a second encounter, an Onix that we nicknamed Joy. It has a hardy neutral nature. This Pokemon is not that great, but when it evolves into a Steelix, if we can keep it alive, it is a phenomenal Pokemon. Heading into the gym to take on Rourke, we have very similar teams. However, he has something we don't, a Cranidos. But we have something he doesn't, a brain. We also have Rock Smash and EV training and a plan, but I digress. He has Rock Smash too, I know he does. Anyway, Geodude sets up the Stealth Rock, and 2 Rock Smashes take out the Geodude, and then we level up to level 15, which is allowed in hardcore Nuzlocke. We then learn the stab move Magnitude. Provided we roll good enough Magnitudes, we should be able to easily defeat his team. We do get hit with a very weak Pursuit, and then a Magnitude 7 one-shots the Cranidos. Onix is going to come out last. It is going to outspeed us, but all it can do is hit a very pathetic Rock Throw before a Magnitude 8 one-shots. At the Valley Windworks, we can get our hands on a Shellos named Billy. It has a Rash plus special attack and minus special defense nature. That is absolutely amazing. Unfortunately, it's a pure water type and doesn't get the ground type till it evolves into a Gastrodon, so like Dodge, we've got to box it. Commander Mars is the next challenge, and normally she is a challenge. The Zubat is not, but the Fat Cat in the back is. It's fast, it hits hard, but against a couple of rock types, it's not going to be able to do much. As a matter of fact, it does very what? I was trying to say pathetic and very little at the same time. It does both of those types of damage, so I came out with Pathiddle. I should really write a script. These would go so much smoother. Nonetheless, her Fat Cat does do some serious damage to the team, but we were never in any real danger. We are in very real danger from the next gym leader, where we have 2 rock ground type Pokemon that are quad weak to her stab grass type moves. So we need a plan and a way out of this, otherwise we don't walk away from that gym battle. That plan, that savior, comes in the way of honey trees. We can catch a female Burmy that can evolve into one of 3 Wormadams. Either the Grass Cloak, the Sand Cloak, or the Trash Cloak. If you level it up and evolve it in grass, it will get the Grass Cloak, makes sense, becoming a bug grass type Pokemon. If you level it up and evolve it inside of a building, it will get the Trash Cloak, becoming a bug steel type. And if you level it up and evolve it inside of a cave, it will get the Sand Cloak, becoming a bug ground type Pokemon. And to be honest with you, without this Pokemon, our run would definitely end here. So this is the savior of the run, and that does feel very odd to say. We just got to get it in a damn Pokeball, though. She does not want to, but we're never dead to any of her moves, so after some attrition, we finally get it. And let's meet Patty, the brave Burmy with a plus attack minus speed nature. Really don't care about its nature, I just care about the fact that it's part bug type. Now you don't have to do all of your leveling up where you want to evolve this Pokemon to get its specific cloak. We did go back to Route 202 to do some attack EV training, and then went into the Orberg Mine to battle Geodudes to get to level 20, and now we have the Sand Cloak becoming part bug and ground type. Patty, you are the savior of the run. All hail Patty. With some training and a plan, Gardenia is actually really easy. With the attack EV investment, we actually one-shot the Turtwig, which is very nice. It doesn't set up Reflect or the Sun. Cherrim does outspeed to hit us with a magical leaf, and we don't quite one-shot it, but we do burn a super potion, which is nice. Put it back into a sliver of health before it goes for a safeguard, so we've only taken 18 ticks of damage. As the Rose Raid comes out, we get tagged with a Stun Spore, but I was prepared for that with a held Cherry Berry. And then Bug Bite eats the Citrus Berry, so we get back to full health, and we did over half on the Rose Raid. So even a critical hit Magical Leaf, we would have survived, and we take out the Rose Raid, winning the second gym badge. This gives us access to Thief, which we taught to Patty, and at a 5% chance, we can actually steal a metal coat from Bronzors inside of Mount Coronet. With the Universal Randomizer, you equip the metal coat and then gain a level, and now our Onix will grow into a Steelix. This circumvents the need for trade evolutions. We can still trade it with PK Hex just as easy. But now we have a very, very defensively bulky Pokemon, one that is going to carry us through quite a few battles, so I'm glad this Pokemon stayed alive to this point. With Joy's new Steel typing, Commander Jupiter is a joke. What's not a joke, though, is Fantina. My mind is now shifting focus to that battle, where she has levitating Pokemon, and a Mismagius that hits very hard on the special side of things, and none of our Pokemon are very specially defensive. As a matter of fact, she also has Magical Leaf, which is super effective into some of my Pokemon, Quad super effective into one, and so we have got to formulate a plan. I think we're going to be able to do this relatively easy. We do have some upcoming encounters, but this is the part of the run that you guys don't really see, is the thought process that goes into these different parts that we run into, because some things are more challenging than others. Some we can shut our brain off and just coast through. Some of them we have to turn our brain on and not coast through. And times when I shut my brain off, I probably shouldn't, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, we do eventually take out Jupiter, and it's time to plan out the next big threat, Fantina. And it's a 3-part plan. The first part of that plan is a new encounter. We catch Earl, the Gligar, on Route 206 with a naive plus speed and minus special defense nature. It also has the Sandvale ability, though that's not really going to come in play in this battle. We have a technical second encounter with Gibble here in the Wayward Cave, but unfortunately this thing has Sand Tomb to lock my Pokemon in, and Darnell is not very speedy for us to run away. I should have had Patty up front. It has Dragon Rage that does 40 set damage, so it's not really worth the risk of trying to catch this Pokemon, as none of my Pokemon can survive 2 attacks. So I've used this Pokemon in 2 other runs. We did the Dragon Egg Group only run, and then a Dragon only run that wasn't that long ago. So if you want to see Garchomp mash its way through Pokemon Platinum, there's 2 other runs. I think we're going to let this pseudo-legendary go, and we're going to use some of these other ground-type Pokemon to prove that they are just as good. The second part of my 3-part plan is to obviously EV train my Pokemon. We need to get some speed and attack EVs on Earl here so that this thing can outspeed and do some serious damage. It's simple and honest work. The third part of my 3-part plan is backtracking to just south of Floaroma to talk to this lady in the bushes, where she hands us the TM for Confide. There's also a little bit of suggestive dialogue there, telling us how this move works. Male versus female, we have to remember that going forward. I almost did forget, that's why I'm mentioning it here. I almost put Confide on Patty, which wouldn't work against the Mismagius. Whilst bringing everybody up to the level cap, we have an evolution, Darnell evolving into a Graveler. Now with our 3-part plan in place, we now have to do a little bit of strategizing, and the strategy is simple. We lead Earl, we go for super effective feint attacks, and hope for the best. Against the Duskull, we don't quite one-shot it. It goes for Future Sight. I did have a held Rossberry just in case of Will-O-Wisp shenanigans, but after a Super Potion, 2 more feint attacks take it out. We do get hit with the Future Sight for a little bit of chip damage as the Mismagius comes out. I hit a Captivate to lower this thing's special attack by 2 stages, and we did put it on Earl, not Patty. Things would have been very, very different if we had put it on Patty, because it wouldn't have worked. And after we get confused, we swap into Patty. We tank the Shadow Ball very nicely, and now I want to steal its Citrus Berry, but we get confused. Patty, being the absolute unit she is, steals the Citrus Berry despite the confusion, and now we can pivot back into Earl on a Shadow Ball that unfortunately gets the special defense drop. Well, that's a little bit annoying. We do a bunch of damage with Feint Attack, get hit with another Shadow Ball to 17 HP before Fantina uses another Super Potion. Because of the speed EVs, though, we outspeed and we knock out the Mismagius, and all we have left is her Haunter that it actually has a physical moveset, and it's not very good on the physical attacking side. So we can send out Joy, our most physically bulky Pokemon, and just tank hits. We do get confused, which is annoying, and we hurt ourselves in confusion because we're a little bit self-destructive. A couple of times, but Shadow Claw's not doing much. 3 times, Shadow Claw's still not doing much. There's the Sandstorm. Now we have residual damage over time. We're actually taking a lot lower than I thought we would, considering, but this proves how much of a stall Pokemon Joy can be. We do get put to sleep, which is also very annoying, but the Sandstorm's doing chip over time. We get confused. We wake up, we break through all of it to KO and win us the 3rd gym badge. As we're leaving Hearthome, we have another rival battle with Algo, and as I said, they're going to get easier as we progress through the game, getting various different Pokemon. We lead out with Patty just to soak up the intimidation, and now we're just going to swap around as needed to take out his different team members. What I want to talk to you guys about whilst this is going on in the background is a comment we got a couple of episodes ago where somebody said, hey, you should do an HOF run. Well, what does that mean? I didn't know what they meant, so I asked them, and they said a Hall of Fame run, which is a great idea. I've had that run on the list for a while, using our Hall of Fame teams from other games in different games to see how they do. But their suggestion went a little bit further, saying we could take Pokemon that surprised us in runs like Pachirisu and use them and build a team and see how they do. Now, unfortunately, non-monotype challenges don't do well on the channel, but it still opens up a lot of different options. One thing that I thought we could do is very similar to what we talked about when we did the Ice-type run of Pokemon X. We left 7 unused Pokemon on the table for Ice-types because of how Nuzlockes work. I know that Nuzlockes are supposed to limit your encounters and build a challenge, but let's be honest, sometimes some Pokemon, like Ice-types, are all found in the same damn area at the very end of the game, so it makes their runs difficult. So to do the runs and have fun with it, I think we should just use those Pokemon. And with that being said, it can go even further into games like Pokemon Emerald. We didn't use all the bug types available to us when we did our bug type run. We have the post-game bugs like Shuckle and Pineco. We didn't use the Pinsir. We didn't use Volbeat because Illumise was the more found Pokemon. Surskit's not available in Pokemon Emerald. That's a Ruby and Sapphire only. So we have many options, and I think some of these Pokemon that are sitting on the table that we didn't use, we should use. Because a lot of people lean towards the Pokemon we know are good, like Staryu and Crobat. But Pokemon like Pachirisu surprised me, and that's what I want to find. I want to find some more Pachirisus. So we've got a lot of runs that just got added to our list of runs. So thank you, commenter. I much appreciate it. We can get our hands on the good rod on Route 209 and then backtrack to Eterna City and fish up a Barboach named Frank. It has a relaxed plus defense and minus speed nature. I'm going to be honest with you guys, you're probably not going to see much of this Pokemon. Now that we've made it to Veilstone, the game opens up a lot for us. We have a bunch of different encounters that we can get. We have TMs that we can get, the move relearner, the move reminderer. They're all available to us, so there's just a ton of things to do. We have coins that we can grind, shards that we can grind. I really don't know where to start, but like eating an elephant, we got to do it one piece at a time, so let's get started. With Earl holding the Razor Fang at night and gaining a level, we can quickly evolve it into the busted Pokemon known as Gliscor. In the Ruined Maniac Cave, we can catch Ralph at a 5% chance with a bold plus defense and minus attack nature. Catalina can be found on Route 214 where we found the Razor Fang with a hasty plus speed and minus defense nature. Our last encounter for this stretch is Randy, with a serious neutral nature that we found on Route 212. With the level cap of 32, we can finally evolve Dodge into its final form, adding it to the team. Billy can also evolve into a Gastrodon, so now we have more than a full team. I lied, you'll see Frank one more time as it evolves into a Whiscash. For Maylene, things are very simple. We lead Earl, and we got Aerial Ace, so after the Fake Out, its Stab, and super effective, we can one-shot the Meditite. This is going to bait in the Machoke with Rock Tomb for speed control, but we outspeed in one-shot with Aerial Ace. Now, as the Lucario comes out, I did teach Fire Fang here, so we could stay in and go for it, but I opt to U-turn out and decide to bring in the newest addition to our team, Dodge, that learned Earthquake at level 32 upon evolution. So after tanking a couple of fighting type attacks that do very minimal damage, we can one-shot it with a Stab super effective Earthquake. Before taking on Wake, Algo challenges us to another battle. We lead Joy, we do get the Intimidate drop, which is annoying. Staravia goes for Double Team, which is more annoying, but we connect with a Rock Throw doing over half. Endeavor is scary, but again, this Pokemon is so bulky, it doesn't really matter. We knock out the Staravia with another Rock Throw, and Buizel comes out, hits us with a double powered pursuit as we swap out. It does 4 damage. We have an immunity with Water Absorb on Randy. We get tagged with a Growl, but we're going for Mud Bomb. It leaves Buizel at a sliver, so we get hit with a quick attack before we take it out, and this baits in, of course, Roselia. Now I could swap into Earl here, but I opt to bring in Dodge, the newest evolution on the team. I think he can tank the Magical Leaf much better, which he tanks it very nicely and fires off a Stab Earthquake that gets a critical hit for a one-shot. Don't think that we needed the crit, doesn't matter. Monferno is last out, and there's nothing he can do but tag us with a Leer before we shake that monkey to death. Now on the surface, Crasher Wake seems very scary, but our immunity to water with Randy is perfect. Gyarados can only fire off Weak Twister before we try to put it to sleep with Yawn. Now if I had gotten a freeze here with Ice Punch after a bite, this would have ruined my plans, but we don't, and we put it to sleep. From there we can bring Earl in, and Earl comes in as the Gyarados snoozes and can hit a quad super effective Thunderfang to one-shot from there. We needed that little bit of chip too, or we wouldn't have one-shot. Anyway, the Floatzel comes in threatening with an Ice Fang, so we U-turn out for some decent damage, and then we bring in Joy, who can wall this Pokemon very well because of all of its physical moves. Except for Brine. I forgot about Brine. I didn't remember it had Brine. Ooh, we risked a huge critical hit there, but we go unpunished. As the Quagsire comes out, this is an easy option, swapping into Dodge to get hit with a Mud Shot and then fire off a quad super effective Razor Leaf for the one shot. I did have Whiscash on the team. Just maybe needed him, but we didn't use him. Ralph evolves into a Hippowdon, and this Pokemon becomes such a utility on the team. It's absolutely amazing. Now, Algo's popping off about Cynthia maybe being my older sister. Come on, dude. We've known each other since we were in baby shoes. You know she's not my sister. If anything, you both have blonde hair, but I'm not going to accuse her of being your relative so she doesn't sick her Garchomp on me. The Pokemon on human violence is reserved for only Johto. If Cynthia wanted to abuse me, though, never mind. Let's just take care of the Psyducks with the headaches, right? Headache Psyducks, let's go. The Choice Specs are arguably one of the best items in the game. Now looking at our team, they are all primarily physical attackers, but we do have one special attacker that these are going to go on and help us in some future battles. We got a plan for the future. We now have the Cypress 1 battle here in Celestic Town. We have to battle this person 3 separate times, one time in Celestic Town, one time in the Team Galactic hideout in Veilstone, and then in the Distortion world. I'm really not worried about any one of his Pokemon in this run. Normally, I'm prepping for these battles and thinking and strategizing. The Cypress 1 and Cypress 2 battles are not normally that difficult, but Cypress 3 is. His Golbat, his Murkrow, they don't stand a chance, and with our immunity to poison in some of these Pokemon, I think I've got a very good strategy to render him pretty benign. And speaking of benign, like a cancer, here's Algo again. He wants to battle us on a rickety bridge in Canalave, and I really don't think that's the best idea. He's got a fully evolved team, and he added a Heracross to his team. But I've got Pokemon with moves, man. I've got Pokemon with resistances, EV trained. I also have more than a quarter of my brain, so he's easy. We win. We have 0 issues. Let's just move on. I don't think Byron has ever been an issue in a single run. Now, Billy is the only special attacker we have on our team. It's going to be the only special attacker, so we equipped her with the choice specs. We took a Tri-Attack, which could have froze us or paralyzed us, which would have been a little bit annoying, but from there, we outspeed and one-shot the Steelix, and we outspeed and one-shot the Bastiodon because Byron is pretty much the joke throughout Sinnoh. With the level cap of 44, we can finally evolve Catalina into a Rhydon. With the Protector and a trade, we can get Rhyperior, and I'm really excited to use this Pokemon. I've never used it before. I was a little apprehensive when I looked at its ability, Solid Rock, as it says it powers down super effective moves. I thought that powered down our super effective moves, but it powers down the super effective moves against us. Basically, they do 25% less damage. So, welcome to the team. And whilst we're trading, we trade Darnell to become a Golem, though I don't think it's going to see much more screen time. This Pokemon is phenomenal. It's gotten us through a lot of different runs, and it did get us through the early game. So like Patty, you're just going to take a much-needed break, friend. I really don't think the Pajama Pita people of Unova would approve of Team Galactic's better world that they're trying to create here in Sinnoh. Decimating an entire lake of sentient Magikarps is not really building a better world, at least not in my opinion. As a matter of fact, humans are the only pests on the planet that if we were eradicated tomorrow, the rest of the planet would survive without us here. Take a lesson from that Team Galactic. You guys must be stopped. We catch a Swinub named Kenny with a bashful neutral nature. Now, I believe the correct pronunciation is Swinub. Never mind, it doesn't matter. It's just Pokemon. I would never rage bait you guys into a comment. That's not what we do here. I would never do that. That just seems silly. With a single level, Kenny evolves into a Piloswine. Piloswine, I know, like I said, I would never rage bait you into a comment here on YouTube. Never. With a backtrack and a heart scale, we can teach Piloswine Ancient Power and then gain it a level to evolve it into a Mamoswine. Candace and her Ice types do pose a pretty big threat to our team, however I have a plan. The priority Ice Shard that is super effective does very minimal damage, and a quad super effective Hammer Arm one-shots. Catalina, great showing for its first battle. This baits in the Abomasnow, who whips up the Hail with Snow Warning. We're going to pivot into Ralph to get rid of the Hail and set up the Sandstorm. Woodhammer does over half. I didn't think it would. Citrus Berry keeps us healthy. We are risking 2 critical hits here because we are also outsped, which I didn't know because I didn't do calculations for this battle. No matter, a quad super effective Fire Fang knocks out the Abomasnow and the Hail is also gone. Piloswine comes out next, so it's going to be a pivot into Billy, because Billy has the choice specs and Surf. Avalanche does very minimal damage. We do outspeed the Piloswine to hit it with that aforementioned Surf to one shot. The Frostlass is going to come out. There's no Hail to help its evasion, so we do avoid a Blizzard, which is very, very nice, and then we can fire off a Surf that unfortunately just misses out on the KO. Citrus Berry heals up. Sandstorm puts it back in healing range. Candace uses a full restore. We hit another specs boosted Surf. That gets a crit to one shot. Matching PJs? Check. Same haircut? Check. 1 leader spouting out ridiculous antics? Check. All those things check off to be a cult. If Cyrus brought out some Kool-Aid, they'd probably drink it. We gotta stop this. This is just getting out of hand. The Cyrus 2 battle is very easy. He leads Sneasel, I lead Catalina. We get tagged with a Screech and then miss a Hammer Arm, which is unfortunate. We get tagged with another Screech before we connect with one-shotting the Sneasel. Though we're at -4 defense, I never planned on staying in when the Crobat came out, so we pivot into Joy for the immunity to poison, and we avoid the Supersonic. We get hit with an Air Slash at this point, or an Air Cutter rather, that gets a critical hit, but then we get a critical hit of our own in Thunderfang, one-shotting the Crobat. The Honchkrow that comes out last right now is not that big of a threat, but it will have Heat Wave in the Distortion world, so we have to pay attention. It is going for Nightshade, playing it a little cautious here and not wanting to get accidentally critted. Even though it's going for a set damage move, I swap into Kenny, tank the Nightshade, and then priority Ice Shard knocks it out from there. We're just playing things a little safer than we normally do. On top of Spear Pillar, we have a double battle with Algo against Mars and Jupiter, and this battle is pretty annoying. We hit a Surf that doesn't knock out either one of the Bronzors or Munchlax, and both of the Bronzors are going to set up the screens. Now, Munchlax is annoying, normally going for Stockpile. This time it went for Screech, but we got to get everybody off the field. Bringing out the Purugly and the Skuntank together is a little bit deadly, but Purugly comes out and Golbat is actually baited out because this one has Giga Drain. Billy was only in there to get the Munchlax out. Now that Infernape's out, we've got some good Pokemon and we can do some serious teamwork. Close combat, because of the Reflect, doesn't knock out the Purugly. Giga Drain doesn't do that much to Kenny as we swap him in, and from here we can just go for priority Ice Shards as Commander Mars actually brings out her Golbat. That's an interesting decision. A close combat doesn't do any damage, and then a Sludge Bomb actually knocks out the Infernape. Okay, Floatzel then comes out, and we go for a priority Ice Shard to knock out the first Golbat. From here, this is going to bring in the Skuntank, and this is where things get a little bit erratic. But they're targeting the Floatzel, so I will take it. And Iron Tail, what was the Iron Tail on the Golbat anyway? I want to knock out the Skuntank, so I go for an Earthquake, getting a crit on the Floatzel, which is hilarious. And then Skuntank goes down. So now it's a 2v1. Bite does very little damage, and Staraptor is actually a pretty good Pokemon. I think we can double up and win this battle from here very easily. And it's time to start planning for our Distortion World battle against Cypress number 3. An Ice Shard from us doesn't actually take out the Purugly, Slash does a little bit of damage, and then the Staraptor hits a close combat to finish the battle. Before jumping in the Distortion world, we backtrack to get Randy on the team. I forgot him, and he is very key in this battle. Billy leads out against the Houndoom and tanks a critical hit Dark Pulse turn 1 and one-shots with a Choice Specs Stab super effective Surf. This of course baits in the Gyarados with Waterfall, we soak up the Intimidate, and then we pivot into Randy. This is the whole reason we went back to get you, for the immunity. From here, we're going to fire off a natural gift that is a Pecha Berry, which is an electric type move if we can ever break through the damn flinches. Ooh, critical hit Earthquake leaves us at 13 HP, and we don't one-shot. But that's okay. Cyrus is going to heal, so we can pivot into Earl on the full restore turn. We didn't want Earl out because of Ice Fang. We can outspeed and knock it out with a Thunder Fang that is Zap Plate boosted. Very nice. From here, it's just control the flow. Weavile comes out, so what are we going to do? We're going to pivot into Joy. Joy tanks an Ice Punch on the swap in, and then can go for a stab super effective Iron Tail after another Ice Punch, one-shotting the Weavile. This is going to bait in the Honchkrow with Heat Wave, as I mentioned moments ago, so we can easily pivot into Catalina, who tanks the Heat Wave pretty decent, and can fire off a Stone Edge after a Night Slash to one-shot the Honchkrow. The last Pokemon is a Crobat. Yeah, Joy is the ultimate wall against Crobat, so it's a pivot back into Joy to finish out the battle, and Cyrus, like I said, was very, very easy in this run. Normally these battles don't go this easy, but hey, you gotta have a good one every now and then. We do get taken very, very low. I was overconfident maybe in this battle, getting taken to 8 HP before we knock out the Crobat, but honestly, that was the last battle that Joy was going to see. Thank you for your service. You have been amazing. I may have been a little overconfident in the last battle, but this battle I am 100% sure that we walk away from this very easily. The Iron Tail miss is very nice, and an Earthquake one-shots the Jolteon. We're not going to outspeed his Pokemon, but we are going to one-shot. Focus Blast misses. Sandstream sets up the Sandstorm, which ups our special defense, so that would not have done that much damage anyway. Electivire comes out and threatens with a Fire Punch burn, but we don't get the burn, so Earthquake one-shots. We would have just pivoted out to one of our other Pokemon because they all are immune to Electric-type moves, and most of them have Earthquake. Luxray does outspeed to hit an Ice Fang. Again, could have froze us, but it doesn't, and we one-shot with an Earthquake, and now it's time to make our way to the Elite Four. One quick little pit stop as we have to have a run-in with Algo as he's trying to, what's the nice way of saying this, block my talk with Jasmine. Sure, we'll say that, but we gotta remember, no simping, no simping, no simping. Yes, that was my friend. Just give me the HM for Waterfall so I can leave. Thank you, I love you, thank you. Goodbye. And here is the team all leveled up and ready to take on the Elite Four. Catalina the Rhyperior with Stone Edge, Mega Horn, Hammer Arm, and Earthquake. Billy the Gastrodon with Surf, Mud Bomb, Recover, and Ice Beam. I wish that was Earth Power, but like a lot of moves, it's locked in the post-game. Randy the Quagsire with Earthquake, Yawn, Waterfall, and Ice Punch. Earl the Gliscor with Earthquake, Brick Break, X-Scissor, and Ice Fang. Kenny the Mamoswine with Earthquake, Ice Shard, Rock Slide, and Natural Gift. And last but certainly not least is Ralph the Hippowdon with Earthquake, Crunch, Fire Fang, and Yawn. Aaron and his bug types are up first, and he leads Yawn Mega, and I lead Catalina. Yawn Mega goes for a double team. With the help of a zoom lens, we connect with a Stone Edge to one-shot. This baits in the Scizor that I figured was going to go for Stab super effective Iron Head, so I swap into a Pokemon that has become a great help here in the late game, Ralph. But Scizor was going for Night Slash, so I don't know what's going on. There's the Stab Iron Head before we hit a quad super effective Fire Fang to one-shot the Scizor. From there we level up, and at level 60 Ralph can learn Fissure, a 30 base accuracy Oko move that we're not going to learn. Drapion then comes out next and outspeeds to hit us with an Ice Fang that freezes. But we thaw out immediately to hit a Stab super effective Earthquake to one-shot, so this is a big roller coaster of events happening all at one time. Heracross comes out next, of course outspeeds and hits a close combat down to 52 HP. Critical hit would have taken us out, but a Fire Fang one-shots it. His last Pokemon is a Vespiquen. It's It's nothing. Vespiquen can't do nothing to my team. It's just a pivot back into Catalina on what is a defend order. And then it does not matter what this Pokemon does. A Zoom Lens Stone Edge KOs. The Zoom Lens actually didn't help there because we outsped. Next up for the Elite Four is Bertha in her ground type. She's a fellow enthusiast. We get hit with an Earth Power turn 1 that does a decent little bit of damage before Surf takes Whiscash below half. Then it sets up the Sandstorm, which is random, and we take it out with another Surf. The crit obviously didn't matter. Now we do not have the choice specs because as the Gliscor comes out, we swap up for Ice Beam. We get hit with an Earthquake down to 80 HP before a quad super effective Ice Beam one-shots the Gliscor. That was a little bit risky, but from here, all three of her Pokemon are outsped in one shot with Stab, super effective Surfs. On the Golem and the Rhyperior, it's quad super effective, so it's an easy OHKO. And sorry, Bertha, my ground types are far superior than your ground types. Jeez, we're stepping on our words. I have that happen. I'm sorry. No script. From the hip. Bye-bye, Rhyperior. On to the third Elite Four member. Flint is up next, and our ground types have a super effective matchup against. The only thing the Houndoom could have done to prevent Randy's wrath here was to set up the Sun, which is why I taught Rain Dance, but it opted to go for Dark Pulse, so we one-shot it with a Stab super effective Waterfall. From here, the Rapidash is going to go for Solar Beam, and so is the Magmortar. So they're both going to fall into a Stab super effective Waterfall. And had we gone for Rain Dance, we had the Damp Rock equipped, not the Light Clay, to elongate that so we could have easily wiped his team. Now, because none of that happened as the Flareon come out, unfortunately is going to burn us with a Will-O-Wisp, and we're going to hit a weaker Waterfall, not quite KOing, and we need to swap. I'm just going to bring Billy in, and we swap into a Giga Impact that does just under half of our health. Jeez. A Surf takes it out from there, and his last Pokemon is Infernape. I don't want to get hit with an Earthquake, so I'm going to swap into Gliscor that is immune to the Earthquake and his Thunder Punch. So from here, we can actually outspeed and hit an Earthquake of our own to once again shake the monkey to death. Last up for the Elite Four is Lucian and his Psychic types, and I lead Earl against the Mr. Mime. We outspeed in one shot with X-Scissor. That's why we've had it in our moveset forever. Espeon is also outsped in one shot with X-Scissor. 2 down, 3 to go. Bronzong comes out next and unfortunately does not take near as much damage from an X-Scissor and sets up a Calm Mind. We hit it with another X-Scissor before getting tagged with a nasty little Psychic that would have KO'd if it had crit. So we need to swap, and I don't know what to bring in. Little bit of a panic at this point, but I opt to bring in Catalina. Catalina comes in on a Psychic and we tank it much nicer. We can tank a second provided it doesn't crit, but we actually outspeed to one shot with Hammer Arm from there. Okay. Gallade is baited out next because of its fighting type, and I probably need to just put this thing to sleep, so we bring in Ralph for the Sandstorm, and then we tank a Leaf Blade. Ah, a move I completely forgot it had. So we risk a critical hit the second go-round before tagging this thing with a Yawn. We were never dead to a crit when we swapped out, but now we are dead to anything. Billy and Randy both can't come in. Kenny's weak to fighting type moves, so I really don't know what to do. Figuring it's going for Leaf Blade, I bring in Earl. Leaf Blade just misses, and it lulls off to sleep. From here, we've got this in the bag. An Earthquake doesn't quite KO the Gallade, leaving it at a Sliver. It heals out with a Citrus Berry, and then gets put low with Sandstorm, but not quite into healing range, so we take it out with another Earthquake. That's beautiful. His last Pokemon is Alakazam, and we actually outspeed this thing in one shot with X-Scissor. Great showing from the team. As we enter the champion room, my heart drops just a little. We've done this run entirely deathless, though we've had some close calls, but I know Cynthia's team, and I don't know that we walk away from this unscathed. Ralph is the lead against the Spiritomb. We go for an Earthquake that does well over half, and with the help of the Sandstorm, our special defense is up, so Shadow Ball doesn't do that much damage. We then knock out the Spiritomb with Earthquake, but the Sandstorm is not beneficial to us for too long. Eventually her Garchomp is going to come out, and we need the sand to go down. Ralph comes in on a Water Absorb Surf, and then we hit an Earthquake that does decent damage, as I suspected this Pokemon was going for Mirror Coat, which it was. We then get outsped and hit with an Ice Beam, so this must have been like a speed tie, and then we can KO it with an Earthquake. I want to prolong the Sandstorm as long as I can. Roserade is baited out next with Energy Ball, so it's a swap into Earl, who can resist it pretty nicely. Or not. I forgot this thing has a massive special attack, so we would have been one-shot with a critical hit. No matter, we outspeed and Ice Fang one-shots it. My Pokemon are just a little bit better. Togekiss comes out next, and I thought it would go for Water Pulse, so I swap into Randy, and I see Air Slash. I can't survive anything else this Pokemon does, and I really needed to set up the rain, and I was locked in for whatever reason here as it hits an Aura Sphere to knock out Randy. I could have very easily swapped there. I was just locked in. I don't know why. Air Slash doesn't quite do half, and Billy being up front now is beautiful. We take the Togekiss very low with the Sandstorm, Chip, and Ice Beam. Full Restore from Cynthia fully heals it, and then we get a critical hit Ice Beam to one-shot the Togekiss. This is going to bring out the Garchomp, whose evasion is boosted because of the Sandstorm. We survive on 7 HP after the Dragon Rush, and an Ice Beam that is quad super effective, Choice Specs boosted, one-shots. Billy almost didn't make the Super Bowl team here. I almost put her in the box and brought Dodge. Last minute I decided to bring my special attacker, which was smart. An extreme speed on the swap-in does very minimal damage. An Aura Sphere is also tanked very nicely by Ralph on 35 HP. And then Earthquake one-shots the Lucario, winning us the battle and winning us the run, but at a cost. As I said, hindsight is always 20/20, and I very easily could have swapped Randy out and saved his life. I was just so locked in at getting rid of the Sandstorm for the Garchomp that I just clicked A before I really processed what I had done. And that was a very unfortunate death. But that's how Nuzlocke goes sometimes, right? You can't win them all. And no sacrifice, no glory, right? That's the Witwiki motto. My name is Zap Witwiki. Nonetheless, we've made it to the champion room. 1 death, great team. I'm glad we added Billy as the last addition. I did, like I said, go back and forth between bringing Dodge, the Torterra, or Billy the Gastrodon, and this is ultimately what I settled on. Mamoswine unfortunately didn't see a lot of playtime here in the Elite Four, but all of these Pokemon played an important role getting us this far, as you saw in many different battles, other than Frank. We evolved Frank and it sat in the box forever. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, you know the routine. Leave a like, leave a comment, consider subscribing if you've made it this far. Thank you so much for watching once again. I will see you on the next one.